In this video, we'll be demonstrating our Mini Stump Grinder. A stump grinder mounted on a mini loader is a very versatile tool. Mainly because of its size, it can get into very tight places, such as backyards, behind fences, in areas where you couldn't normally go with a skid steer loader or a trailer-mounted stump grinder. This stump grinder is hydraulically driven and shares many parts with our full-size skid steer stump grinder. Structurally, the frame is made up of 1/4-inch plate steel. The distance from the pivot point out to the center of the wheel is 36 inches, so you have really good reach. This also gives us a really nice wide swing. So when you cut the arc, you have the ability to cover a much larger stump. The main arm of the stump grinder has a cross-section of a C and is 8 inches deep and 6 inches wide and made up of 1/4-inch plate steel. It houses the 50 horsepower gearbox, which we mate to a hydraulic motor, which is an Eaton 2000 series. This motor is sized for the lower flow rates you find on mini loaders. The advantage of using a gearbox setup like this is that we can use a gearbox that has an increaser ratio in it. So we're actually speeding up the output speed to give a really fine cut with the carbide teeth that we use. This gearbox also has heavy-duty bearings in it that resist the side loads of typical stump grinding. Using a gear ratio and a gearbox setup like this allows us to use a larger displacement hydraulic motor. This means that the motor itself will be turning slower. This allows the motor to run longer life and also cooler, and it tends to run in a more efficient part of its performance zone. So that means that the components will last longer, be more reliable. The gearbox and motor are mounted in the C-channel in such a way that the overall package size is very small and narrow. This means you have very good visibility to your work area. Having the wheel mounted on the side like this is perfect for the line of sight from the operator station. You can see exactly where the teeth are engaging the stump, how much you're cutting, how deep you're cutting. And the other big advantage to this is that with this rotation direction, we're blowing the chips away from the operator. So you don't have a shield on this side that restricts your visibility to the work area, and it keeps the material from blowing up towards the operator, which is a much safer way to do this. This stump grinder shares a valve block with our large skid steer mounted stump grinder. This means that the components are actually way oversized for this application. It also incorporates a special feature that I've never seen on any other stump grinder. This is a load control circuit. It's governed by a relief valve. The reason this feature is important is because it helps prevent the wheel from stalling while cutting the stump. The way this works is as you're cutting across the stump, as you're working, it'll build pressure, and this system will sense that pressure, and it will slow down the swing speed by slowing down the oil flow to the swing cylinder just long enough to pause to let the wheel to catch up again. So what you'll see is as you're cutting, the swing will actually pause, and I've been cutting some really hard stumps, including this stump here today, and what you'll see is the wheel will actually pause as it's cutting across the face. But it's so important that you keep the wheel moving and don't stall it, because as soon as you do, you're really hurting your productivity. This valve block controls the swing cylinder as well as the lift cylinder via an electrical harness. We offer a generic harness that will fit any mini loader. This cutting wheel is made up of 1/2-inch plate steel. It has a diameter of 14 inches. There's 24 carbide tipped teeth on this wheel mounted at different radii. This means that you have a nice wide cutting width as you sweep across the stump. The tooth holder bolts are at a standard 1.5 inch spacing. This means that you can mount many types and different brands of aftermarket teeth if you wish. Okay, so we finished grinding this behemoth pine stump here. The top of the stump measured 36 inches wide, and it was probably about 4 feet long. It took us just around 40 minutes to do all this work. There was several roots that shot off in different directions here that I had to go chasing. Pine stumps are kind of known for that. They got roots that'll go out underground just below surface. You got to kind of chase them out a ways. But as you can see here, we did a lot of work with a small machine in a fairly short amount of time. So it's really a productive unit. It did a great job of grinding the material down to a small size. And after you incorporate it with some of this dirt, I bet this pine material will rot almost fully within a year. Some of the material you can just roll back up on top and let it heap it up and let it just kind of rot down over 1 to 2 years. The results are really good when you get done with the rotting of the material. Something you're going to encounter while stump grinding is rocks. Around here we have a lot of rocks. The teeth that we use have very large, very tough carbide tips on them, and we found a rock here that was buried in this pine tree, and you can see we actually chipped up the rock and took big chunks of it off. This is, I believe this is a granite material, so it's very hard, but there was no damage to the teeth. It actually kicked the rock out. It's good to check the area before you do the grinding to make sure that you can remove any of these rocks, because they definitely do take some of the lifespan off the teeth. You want to be able to remove these if you do find them. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Check back as we continue to make more videos just like this. And as always, give us a call or check out our website if you have any questions.